We have to ask a very important person a question today. Today's theme is superheroes. His bio on Facebook says Superman. He's wearing a Superman T-shirt. It's not a coincidence, I think.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence. Okay, to give you a quick introduction of this person here, you on his poster. How many of you saw the poster that we put out as a featured artist as Ratheesh Krishnan? It said social engineer, mentor, cultural head, a lot of things. It sounded like Tony Stark from Avengers, billionaire, philanthropist, playboy. It is quite analogous. Analogy. It's a very good analogy because okay, he comes from a place of, I don't want to say suffering. I'd say a very important journey.
Yeah.
He said, make a. You said
Make a difference to make a living.
Make a difference to make a living. Instead of me asking him the question, what was his reckoning? Instead of me asking him what is your process and how you came here and became what you became, started by saying you graduated from college with 2 patents.
I didn't go to college.
But you graduated with a psychology degree
Yeah.
in 2007.
Yeah.
That much research I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us more about your 2 patents. Okay, wait, sorry. I'm so sorry. I underplayed that fact. He has 2 patents. You don't even have 1 degree, he has 2 patents.
So for the first one was when I was studying in school.
School Fifth grade pass பண்ண முடியல
Yeah.
School
Yeah. But
one is in mathematics, huh?
yeah, one was in math. The second one happened because I wanted to do it, and that was more on learning and development. So if you've heard of the word jugad,
Yeah.
that's what the patent is. So if anybody is using the word jugad, it comes from that concept, and that's where the patent is for the second one.
Basically about how you build skills.
Yeah, how like somebody made a performance here, and let's say you wanted to compose music like Ilayaraja. What if instead of actually learning from Ilayaraja, if Ilayaraja could break his head um, and figure out how he took 20 years to learn it, but make it possible for you to learn in 4 years. So that's what is the concept called skill hacking. If I can do slam poetry, and if I took 2 years to learn slam poetry, what if I understand how I learned it, and break it down to somebody in such a way that they could actually do slam poetry in 20 minutes. And that's what the patent is about, the structure of doing it, and that's what is called skill hacking. So if you are good at something, how can I hack and do it in half the time you took to become a master at it? So that's what skill hacking is about.
That's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
So after that, after the patents and all of this, you're more than the patents yourself. You work for Spike.
SPI.
SPI. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, I don't know the proper pronunciation. I mean, so he works for Spike and
SPI.
SPI, and he says that he wants to use emerging technologies to make disruptive startups for profit.
Yeah.
And in this age where everyone's like, I'm not making money, I'm sorry, he's telling you, go for it. Make a difference and make money.
Yeah.
With emerging technology.
Yeah.
Throw some light on it. Tell us what it is and how it is you do it, how it is you help people. Because I myself have
Okay.
seen an example.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting in one. But let's talk about that.
So SPI cinemas. So the urban legend is if SPI cinemas is a feeling, then Satyam is an emotion. So that's the urban legend, and we are very cognizant of the fact that in an age of Netflix, in an age of Tamil rockers, it's really important to keep the brick and mortar experience alive.
The experiences.
The experience alive. Um, I can still watch the same performance over YouTube. I can I can indulge to listen to stand-up comedy while I'm in the restroom. I can indulge to maybe listen to a documentary on the way to work. Um, Imagine a future where everything is virtual, seamless, and highly accessible and available. The only scarce resource will be social interaction. And the feeling of being alive. We are forecasting a future where the brick and mortar experience would be the only experience that you will seek. So, keeping cinema alive, and the reason why I'm very passionate about it is I so I happen to read what watching a movie inside a cinema is all about. And there was so the person who actually formed the Cannes Film Festival, he said watching movie in a cinema is like public dreaming. You know, it's the only space where you can do public dreaming, and keeping that art form alive. Cinema needs to be respected by going to the movies, to the theater. It's not just the content, it is to actually you, like we can buy a book, an author. You know, you spoke about talent acceleration and all of that. I can buy a Chetan Bhagat's book in Paris footpath because I want to read the story. But getting an artist to make a living is the only way to do that is to pay respect to the art. I would go and purchase it where the author asks me to purchase. So cinema as an art form, like for instance, let's say somebody makes a compelling movie. The only way to respect is to actually go to the movies and watch it, because that's the only way the artist can earn. There aren't any other opportunities for that person to earn, and what the artist is demanding here is respect. And keeping cinemas alive actually helps a lot of artists to continue their good work. You know, I'll give you another example for you to understand why in the future watching movies is really going to be a big deal. Is in a recent interview by Harrison Ford, he has actually dedicated his entire life of what he has actually earned through the movies to the stunt double who actually played him in Indiana Jones, because that's what made his career. So you going and watching a movie of Indiana Jones in the theater actually gives us the potential to pay that stunt double. You know, so it's not just the artist alone, a whole lot of people who's actually supporting the movie making business. A lot of us complain about why we can't get to watch great movies in India.
Yeah.
That's because you know, great writers need to be paid.
Yeah.
You know, and I would want to see it as a profitable entity in the future. So in this discussion, we believe technology is an enabler, it's not the solution. So how can we actually enable that? For instance, there's a company called as Elsewhere. It's called as ELSEVR. Yeah. What they're doing is they're doing voyeuristic journalism. Voyeuristic journalism is giving me permission to peep into your house and actually tell the story with dignity. So they've made documentaries. Like a lot of us have actually witnessed what it is to stand for Jallikattu in Marina Beach. Some of us made it, some of us didn't make it. It was a historic event as far as Chennai is concerned. 10 years down the line, your niece and nephew will just laugh about it because it's an article.
They won't
If exactly, so if somebody made a documentary in VR and they're able to witness Jallikattu by being there
then they
and actually experience it, yes. Now, if you replace the same Jallikattu with what does it take to actually stand in front of a riot, stand in the midst of a flood. One of the documentaries I saw made by them was they were actually making a documentary on, do you know what it feels to be like a Dalit? So I'm wearing the VR headset, and there's somebody saying, "Hi, hi," and I can only see darkness. And then somebody says, "Hey, niche dekho," and then I look down, and I'm actually peeping into a manhole, and there's a person coming out. So I get to experience what he is. So I enjoy content. It's a great platform. The medium is different. The technology is actually making the content sharper and better. So we are trying to see. So one of the experiments that we do at Satyam Cinemas, which has been shelved over the last 1 year, is we're trying to see how we can generate electricity from the bumps in the seats. Like you sit and watch movie, there's enough thermal energy being created. So with piezoelectricity, what if all the bumps in this room can actually power the popcorn machine? So we save energy, we are a clean theater, we do things differently. That's the intent. So we are already cooking about a couple of companies, four in number to be exact, where we redefine what does it take to do something different. And what do I mean by a disruptive business is, if you go to your parents in the 1980s and ask them to purchase an oil, they would actually go and buy a sunflower oil. But you would not believe that Wipro was actually doing that in 1980s. So in 1980s, they actually ventured into an industry and wanted to be the first person to try something there in IT services, and that's how they started Wipro Technologies, and now they're not in that business. So we are also trying to see what can SBI become for the future in the world of entertainment. That's what we're trying to do using technology.
So that was an insight into what you do today.
Yeah.
So going back to the theme of our movie,
Yeah.
superheroes.
Yeah.
Superheroes give you hope, and they give you hope in your moments of reckoning.
Yes.
And you had yours.
Yeah.
I don't want to dwell into the details, but I think you should show us what it was very quickly.
Okay. So I started working at the age of 17. Um, when I got my first patent, I realized that I might not be suitable for a college education, because when I went to college, right from the HOD and my friends said, "Dude, you shouldn't be here." You know, it wasn't a nice feeling. It was a bad feeling, because everywhere I went, somebody said, "I don't know why you're wasting your time here." So I started working, and I'm 31 years old right now. Exactly 8 years ago, um, I was working in a software firm. I had a great weekend. I clearly remember it was a Monday morning. I had to get up and go to work. I woke up at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and the only thing that I knew was, from beneath my chest, I could not move. It wasn't something, it wasn't like a premonition. It wasn't like something that I knew will happen. It just happened like this. And I'm sitting there. I don't know that I am paralyzed. I do not know if things are going to be different with me. All I know is I can't feel anything below my diaphragm. I don't feel hunger. I don't feel thirsty. I'm just there. It took me a couple of days to understand what is meant by paralysis. And the first thing that I did was not go to a doctor, but I asked my friends to get me a wheelchair, because I wanted to feel what it takes to move. You know, what happens is when you're on bed, like when you have long weekends and you're sleeping for 2 days at a stretch, after a certain time the bed stinks. You know, I was at a stage where I may have passed motion, I may have urinated, I might not know. And it takes a real stink to get me alive to see that, okay, something's happened, these things need to be changed. And I wanted to experience that side of life, to understand how is it to not know, but seek help shamelessly. The only thing that you can do is ask for help. But I think it was when I started moving was when I understood that there were so many people whose lives I had touched, and they had actually come and put money for my treatment. I collected in about 1 year's time, I collected about 4 crores of money. And these are people who will just come to my house, who have not, I may not remember, kids, women, old people who actually came forward and said, you need to walk again. But there wasn't anything that I could do. I met about 23 doctors who actually wrote me off, saying that I don't think you will walk again because there is nothing that we can do. So I think it was about the 17th or 18th doctor. His consultation fee was some 20K or something like that. So I went to meet him with utmost no hope, because by then you're like, it's like seeing the பொண்ணு பார்க்கறதுக்கெல்லாம் போவாங்கல்ல அந்த மாதிரி. It's like, okay, this is another day, you've got to go and meet a doctor, tell the same story, he's going to give you some shit and you've got to take that shit and you've got to tell him that's not the shit what I said. So it's on and on. But this doctor was different. He actually came to me, he said, I'm sorry, I read through your reports, I'm going to try doing something different. You will not walk, I can't cure you, take my consultation fee. And he gave me 2 books, and he gave me those books and said, you know what, these books may give you hope to continue your life in your wheelchair, I suggest you read it. What I did was, I read the book, I applied the principles of the book, and I started walking again. And that's his contribution in my life. So the book is called Tony Robbins' Unlimited Power. The second book is called Awaken the Giant Within. It uses the principles of NLP. So who I am today is, I have two systems within the same body. I have a neural system, and then I have a self, and I can talk to my body, and I understand. I'm still writing a book in closed closet in terms of, so when you eat, so this is Stark Bistro, right? When you maybe order a mocktail, I can describe to you what happens to my mocktail in esophagus, in my pancreas, in my stomach.
So
when does it go? Yeah, when does it go to my large intestine? I know. Like, I can tell you.
You can perfectly time a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So it took a lot of years of practice, but that's what I said. If I can understand what's going through my body to such a deep sense, some people still call it humbug, but I know. Like, I know what's the thoughts going on, which is the thought that's connecting to the other thought. I understood that I had the ability to design my life, like to control my life. Like my, it's like Avengers. I have a heightened sense of reality at this point in time. I know who's actually using a fork downstairs and how many people are holding the fork. I know that. I realize it. So it's given me something. What I did is I flipped this to help people. So I mentor people and I coach people. I know what they would say in their third sentence. I know what they would do this night and how would they comprehend that. And I use that to help them design their future. And that's what I've been doing over the last 14 years. So that's what I do.
So the reason why I asked what he does in his daily life and what his struggle was he didn't feel any experience first.
Yeah.
And then he changed that into his job. He makes people feel experiences.
Yeah.
That's his job. That's why I asked those 2 questions.
Yeah. And also why I relate to Superman is my biggest source of inspiration. Like, I remember the day I started walking out. Like, I knew this was exactly at 1:32 a.m. In 2010, perhaps 2010, 2009, 2010. I knew I wanted to urinate. That was my first sense. what people call nature's call was a blessing for me. I was like, I have never felt my dick like that in my life. Yeah, I knew I want to urinate, but I know for a fact that I can't move. And I had a home nurse and I had to call her and help me. I said, why don't I try? And I remember dropping dead like a log from the bed, dragging myself to the restroom. By the time I reached the restroom, my body was moving on urine as a lubricant because I didn't know I had urinated. But then by the moment I got into the restroom, my toe moved. And that was a starting point. And I knew that from that time, I could take control of what's happening. Um, and 1 week later, I actually read the story of Christopher Reeve, how he actually played Superman and he lived his entire life on a wheelchair. I associate with Reeves as a Superman and as my inspiration, and not the Superman that you see in the comics. And that's why I am Superman.
Thank you so much for coming out here. So we have a lot of performances lined up, and taking inspiration from what he said, I don't want to do cheap marketing, but I have to say it. You can take control of your life. Open mics is the first step.
Yeah.
Coming up with something bigger. Stay tuned to our channel. Stay tuned to our Instagram handles, Facebook. Keep in touch. There's more in store.
Thank you
so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.